Welcome, wherever you are in the day or night. Take a moment now to settle comfortably. Perhaps you're listening just before sleep, or in a quiet space where the world feels still. Wherever you find yourself, imagine yourself softly stepping into a calm and ancient story. Your narrator is historian Couch, and together we will explore a place both shadowed and serene, the Greek underworld. This is not a tale of terror or haste, but a slow, gentle journey through a realm beneath the earth, where so find your place of comfort. Perhaps close your eyes or soften your gaze. Breathe slowly, and imagine yourself stepping gently down into the calm embrace of Hades. At what time are you watching or listening? You can share that in the comments if you wish. Now let us begin. Daily life among the dead. Crossing the river. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of an ancient shore. The sky is neither bright nor dark. Instead, it holds a gentle dusk, timeless and still. The water before you is wide and silent, a slow-moving current of gray that smells faintly of earth and old rain. This is the river Acheron, the first threshold to the underworld. The souls of the newly dead gather here, quiet and watchful. There is no urgency in their eyes, no panic. They seem to understand, as if by instinct, that time has changed its meaning. Some clutch small coins, glinting faintly in the dim light, obols placed beneath their tongues or on their eyes by those who mourn them above. For those without, the crossing will be harder. But for now, all wait. From the mist comes a boat, narrow and worn smooth by centuries. It slides without a sound. At the stern stands a figure in a simple cloak, face half-shadowed. Karen, the ferryman. He does not speak. He holds out his hand. One by one, the souls step forward, paying their fare. His boat never tips, never hurries, and when it returns, it is always empty, always waiting. As the ferry glides across the water, the world behind fades. There is no turning back. The only sounds are the creak of the oar and the breath of the windless water. On the far bank, the gates of Hades await, tall, motionless, and silent. The crossing is not a punishment. It is a passage, one that all must make, softly and without fear. The meadows of Asphodel. Beyond the gates lies a wide plain, pale and dreamlike. The meadows of Asphodel. Not bright, not dark, but gently lit by an unseen source. The ground is soft, covered in low grass that whispers faintly underfoot. Here walk the ordinary souls, not wicked, not heroic. Simply remembered once and then forgotten. The shades are quiet. Their movements are slow, as if everything now is unhurried. They do not speak as the living do, but thoughts seem to drift between them like soft ripples. Some wander in circles, others stand still, looking at something only they can see. There are no homes here, no shelter, only the endless sameness of the meadows. But it is not cruel. It is not even sad. It is peaceful, in a way the living rarely know. There is no hunger, no fear, no pain, only the still rhythm of memory fading into mist. They walk with the weightlessness of dreams. The world they knew is far away now. Faces, names, even loves, all softened by the silence. But some cling to a fragment, a melody, a scent, a name whispered through the grasses, again and again. The past, slowly dissolving into peace. The halls of judgment, near the center of the underworld, where the river bends and the wind falls silent, stand the halls of judgment. Massive stone pillars rise from the earth, worn smooth with age.
No torches burn here, yet the chambers glow faintly with an inner light,
Pale as moonstone.
Inside, the three judges sit: Rhadamanthus of Crete, wise and unshakable; Aeacus of Aegina, solemn and fair; and Minos, once king of Knossos, whose final word seals fate. Each soul passes quietly before them. There is no pleading, no noise, only the weight of a life brought forth. In their hands are not scrolls or ledgers, but memory itself. They do not need to speak. A glance is enough. The deeds of a lifetime unfold like mist. The kindnesses, the cruelties, the forgotten choices that shaped a soul. Most are sent to asphodel, a gentle neutrality. A few, shining brightly, are guided elsewhere. And fewer still are cast into Tartarus, far below. But even that descent is quiet, unaccompanied by sound or scream. The judges remain unmoved, not cruel, not kind, only steady, only eternal. In these halls, judgment is not vengeance, it is balance. The soul continues on, lighter or heavier than before. The Elysium fields. Beyond the meadows and judgment halls lies a rarer place, the Elysian fields. Not many reach it. Fewer still return to speak of it. But in whispers, the ancients described it. Golden light filtering through soft trees, the scent of blooming laurels, and the calm hush of an eternal afternoon. Here walk the favored of the gods, poets, heroes, the righteous and the brave. Their steps are free, their faces serene. They do not labor, they do not worry. They wander in company or in solitude, speaking of distant wars and old joys. The air is warm. Time flows differently, or perhaps not at all. Some say the sun never sets here. Others say it sets slowly, in a long twilight that never darkens. The breeze is soft. Harps play, perhaps, though no musicians are seen, and the fields stretch endlessly, bordered by a river of stars. Elysium is not a reward, exactly. It is more like a forgetting, but a beautiful one. Here, the dead remember only their finest hours, and in those memories, they drift forever, unbothered by what came before. Tartarus and the damned, far beneath the soft plains, lower even than Hades' own throne, lies Tartarus. Few ever see it, fewer return. It is not a place of fire, rather of depth and distance. A chasm so vast it seems to pull light downward, endlessly. Here dwell the ancient enemies of the gods, the Titans, bound in silence. Here too are those judged most wicked, though their suffering is not like mortal torment. It is isolation, repetition, and the ache of never again touching joy. Sisyphus pushes his stone. Tantalus reaches for water he can never drink. But these are myths, softened over time. What truly lies in Tartarus is unknowable, and yet always sensed. Even in asphodel, even in Elysium, the soul may feel a distant coldness, a reminder of what lurks beneath, not as threat, but as gravity. The underworld contains all: reward, punishment, memory, and forgetting. And Tartarus, like the rest, is not loud. It is quiet. So very quiet. The shades and their silence. The souls who dwell in Hades are called shades. Not quite shadows, not quite echoes. They retain the shape they bore in life, yet move with a softness the living do not.
Their feet do not stir the dust. Their breath does not fog the air. But they are not nothing. They are memory, gentle by time. Some shades are more aware than others. A few linger near the banks of Lethe, hoping to forget completely. Others cling to fading pieces of their lives. A child's name, a melody, the feel of sunlight. They do not wail or weep. They simply are. In the meadows or the deeper caves, they pass one another without speech. But their thoughts drift in slow currents, quiet recognitions, shared sorrows. A soul may linger in the meadows for what feels like a moment or an age. For some, the absence of time is a comfort, a release from urgency. For others, it is disorienting. But eventually, most adjust. They fall into a rhythm, not of hours, but of stillness. The past loosens its grip. The future is no longer waited for, and the present simply unfolds. In this way, the underworld is both sleep and waking, a dream that never ends and never begins again. The lesser rivers, beyond the 5 great rivers, other streams weave through the land of the dead. They are unnamed in most tales, known only to the shades who pass by them. Some shimmer with silver mist. Others burble quietly over stones that never dry. These waters are not for crossing, they are for listening. Souls sit beside them in silence, watching reflections they do not recognize. The rivers speak, though not in words, sharing half-forgotten stories, glimpses of other lives, ripples of comfort. Even in death, water remains sacred. It carries memory, washes sorrow, and whispers of things long buried. The gates that never close, at the edge of the underworld, where the ferry first lands, rise the great gates. They are carved of black stone and veined with veins of dull silver. No hinges creak, for they do not move. They open to all, yet close to none. Cerberus lies nearby, silent and ever watchful. His 3 heads turn slowly, never missing a sound. But he does not bark. He does not chase. He is not rage. He is boundary. No living soul may pass unbidden. No shade may wander out. Yet the gates are not cruel. They are the quiet guardians of rest. Beyond them lies the living world, loud and fast and bright. But within, there is only hush, only drift, only the slow remembering and slower forgetting. The gates are not an end. They are a pause, a space between what was and whatever may come. The descent of heroes. In hushed tones and dim twilight, the stories of those who dared to enter Hades unfold, not with clamor, but in gentle echoes. Orpheus and Eurydice. The lyre was silent. Orpheus, once beloved by trees and rivers, now stood still on the shore of the underworld. His music had stilled the wild things, softened the hearts of kings, and even stirred the stones to weep. But nothing had moved him more than the absence of Eurydice. When she died, so suddenly, so unfairly, Orpheus did not scream. He did not rage. He played, and his melody was like water over stone, smooth and sorrowful. With it, he descended. Charon listened as Orpheus sang across the water, and for once the ferryman's arms moved not by duty, but by music. Cerberus lay down to rest. Even the shades paused. In the dark throne room, Hades and Persephone listened without blinking. Orpheus did not plead. He simply played. He played the joy of meeting, the pain of losing, and the aching space in between. The gods allowed it. Eurydice would follow him, but he must not look back.
So he walked. The path was long and dim. Behind him, only silence. But he could feel her, couldn't he? Each footstep echoed with doubt. Was she there? Was she still? As the upper light grew nearer, his fear grew heavier. And just before the threshold, he turned. She was there, just as he remembered. But the moment his eyes met hers, she vanished, not with a scream, but like a whisper, being forgotten. And so Orpheus returned alone, the lyre still in his hands, but the strings had grown quiet. Heracles and Cerberus. Heracles had known the scent of blood and the cry of battle. But when he stood before the mouth of Hades, the air was still. No challenge was shouted, no foe appeared, only darkness and the sound of his own breath. This was his 12th labor, not to slay a beast, but to return with one. Cerberus, the hound of Hades, was not to be harmed, only led, only borrowed. Hermes guided him down the winding path, the god of thresholds speaking softly, barely above a whisper. They passed the dead, not enemies, not friends, just watchers in the dim. When they reached the great dog, Heracles did not raise his club. He knelt. He looked into 3 pairs of eyes, each blinking slowly in turn. Cerberus growled, but not in rage, in warning, in memory. The hero offered no violence, only his hands, and for a time, Cerberus walked beside him, the great paws echoing softly through the cavern halls. When the task was done, Heracles returned him, unharmed, untouched, and unbound. The dog padded back into the mist, and Heracles, for once, said nothing. Persephone's half-year. She was once only a maiden of flight. But seasons change, and so do names. When Hades took her, not cruelly, but unavoidably, the earth above grew quiet. Demeter wept, and the crops failed. But below, in the pale halls of the dead, Persephone began to walk slowly, not as a prisoner, but as a queen becoming. She tasted the seeds, just 6, enough to tie her to the underworld. Not forever, but for a time. Now, half the year, she rises, with spring at her heels and blossoms in her wake. The other half, she descends, not in sorrow, but in silence, in duty, in balance. She rules beside Hades, not in fear, but in understanding. She wears no chains, only a crown made of shadow and pomegranate rind. And when she sits on her throne, all of Hades is still. She is not warmth, but memory, not night, but the hush that follows. Odysseus among the shades. Odysseus, ever the wanderer, found his way to the underworld. Guided by Circe's words and ancient rites, he brought offerings to the edge of night. He stood near a trench filled with dark blood, and slowly the dead came forth, not summoned, but drawn. First Elpenor, unburied and cold. Then his mother, her voice soft and distant. But most of all, he waited for Tiresias. The blind prophet drank and spoke truths that the stars themselves feared to share. Odysseus learned of strife, of hardship yet to come, but also of home, always, the faint scent of home. The dead did not cry, they did not reach, they only watched, and in their watching he saw himself, not as a hero,
but as a man. He poured the last of the blood and turned back toward the light. Aeneas in the underworld. Guided by a golden bow and a Sibyl's calm, Aeneas stepped gently through the gate. He did not weep. He did not falter. This was not a conquest. It was a journey of memory. He passed by shades, lovers, warriors, and the just. He saw the groves of infants, the fields of mourning, and the resting places of those honored in battle. At last, he saw Anchises, his father, quiet and proud. The old man pointed, not back, but forward, toward descendants yet unborn, toward the slow unfolding of Rome. The underworld, for Aeneas, was not an end. It was a mirror, a space where past and future touched and whispered. Theseus and Pirithous. They were bold, too bold. Theseus and Pirithous, companions in adventure, once swore to wed daughters of Zeus himself. Theseus chose Helen. Pirithous, in his pride, chose Persephone. So they descended, together, confident. But the underworld is not a place for ambition. They found the dark palace, its walls veined in silence. The throne of Hades loomed, cold and quiet. And as they approached, they were offered seats, not as guests, as prisoners. The chairs clung to them. Roots of stone wound around their limbs. Their laughter faded. Their Pericles would later free Theseus. But Pirithous remained. Some say he still sits there, head bowed, waiting for forgiveness that never came. In the underworld, some steps are final. Not with fury, but with certainty. Psyche's descent. She was no warrior, no queen, just a mortal girl sent on an errand by a jealous goddess to bring back a touch of beauty from the queen of the underworld. Psyche walked alone. She carried 2 coins, one for Charon, one for the return, and 2 barley cakes to quiet Cerberus. She said nothing. She touched nothing. She let her feet move like wind over stone. Persephone received her with calm. No wrath, no cruelty, only the box and a quiet nod. Psyche returned the way she came, slowly, carefully, through the mists. But near the edge of life, curiosity stirred. She opened the box, hoping for beauty. Instead, sleep spilled out, heavy and soft. She fell, but Eros found her. Love, winged and patient, lifted her from the earth, and Psyche lived again. Some descents are not heroic. They are quiet, steady, and full of grace. Alcestis and the gift of death. When death came for Admetus, it found him unwilling. But Alcestis, his wife, stepped forward. She did not argue. She did not fear. She simply offered herself in his place. Her walk into Hades was silent. The shades parted. Even Charon watched her pass, a living soul, giving what many would never give. She stood before Persephone, her eyes downcast. There was no plea, no demand, just stillness. Heracles, learning of her gift, descended later. He wrestled death, not in rage, but in resolve. And Alcestis returned to life. But for a time, she knew the hush of the underworld, and even after, she carried it in her silence. Some love does not speak. It simply steps forward. The trials of Sisyphus. He was clever, perhaps too clever. Sisyphus, king and trickster, deceived gods and death alike. Nothing. He bound Thanatos. He avoided the grave. But the underworld waits for all eventually. His punishment was not pain, it was repetition. Each day, if days can be counted below, he rolls a stone up a hill. And each time it falls, not with a crash, but with a sigh. No fire, no chains, just the slow, steady rhythm of effort undone. Some say he smiles, others say he weeps, but most believe he has grown still inside, like a man learning to live with echo. The stone rolls, and he follows, echoes and forgotten travelers. Not all who enter the underworld have names in story. Not all are sung by poets or sculpted in marble. There are thousands, tens of thousands who walked that path in silence. A child who chased a butterfly and never returned. An old woman who sat beneath an olive tree and closed her eyes. A farmer who looked into the stars one last time. They cross the river. They pass through the gates. They find their way to the meadows or the groves. Their names may be lost, but their steps remain. Even now, the underworld hums with their presence. Not mournful, simply there. They are the true keepers of the underworld. Not heroes, not villains, just lives, gently laid down like stones in a riverbed. And in the stillness, they remain. The geography and culture of Hades, a slow walk through rivers, caves, and sacred rites. Not of fantasy, but of quiet imagination and deeply held belief. The river Styx and the oaths of the gods. Deep beneath the world of men, the river Styx moves slowly through shadow. It is not a roaring torrent, but a thick, cold stream, black as ink, silent as night. The gods themselves swore by its waters, for no greater oath could be made. To break a vow upon Styx was to risk everything, not punishment alone, but power itself. For 10 years, a god who lied upon its name would fall into stillness, breathless, voiceless, untouched by ambrosia. Even immortality bowed before the river. But Styx was not only sacred, she was a goddess. Her waters flowed from her very essence, ancient, grim, and respected. Her stream winds through the halls of Hades, sometimes near, sometimes far, and always it listens. Even now, some say that if you speak your truth beside dark water, it carries your words to the ears of the old gods. And if you lie, it remembers. Lethe, the waters of forgetting. The river Lethe winds like a ribbon of moonlight through the heart of the underworld. Clear and calm, it murmurs gently, not in warning, but in welcome. To drink from Lethe is to forget, not violently, but softly, like fog lifting from a hill at dawn. The dead come to its banks with memories heavy on their shoulders, regrets, names, griefs. They kneel, they sip, and slowly the weight fades. Some do not drink. They linger instead, remembering faces, holding on to stories for a little while longer. But most surrender, and in forgetting, they find peace. In Lethe's waters, there is no punishment, only relief. In later ages, poets would say that the soul must forget before it can be reborn. Lethe was not the end of the journey, but the pause before a new beginning. Acheron, the river of pain. It is Acheron, not Styx, that most souls meet first. A wide, slow-moving river that runs deep and dark, heavy with the sorrow of those who cross it. Its name means pain, but it is not cruel. It is solemn. The water is cold, not punishing. The air above it is still.
Karen waits there, not as a terror, but as a guide. Those with a coin may cross swiftly. Those without may linger, not in agony, but in longing. Eventually, most find a way. The river does not deny them. It simply waits. To stand on its banks is to feel the weight of death, not as an enemy, but as an ending. It is the boundary that all must meet and all must pass. Phlegethon and Cocytus. Two rivers run deeper still. Phlegethon burns, though its flames give off no light. It is the fire of passion unspent, of rage without direction. But it does not roar. It murmurs, flickering endlessly across stone. Cocytus is quieter still, a river of tears, but not sobbing, not screams, only the slow trickle of sorrow that never fades, that rests in the chest like breath held too long. These rivers rarely touch the souls of the ordinary dead. They pass in the distance, reminders of what has been endured. The dead feel them, not as fear, but as memory. In the geography of Hades, these rivers are a motion-made landscape. They mark the soul's inner terrain, not to punish, but to shape the world beneath the world. The great cavernous realms. Hades was imagined not as a simple pit or hall, but as a vast, shifting space, a world unto itself. Great caverns stretch endlessly. Some rise into vaulted chambers, where judges sit upon ancient thrones. Others descend into quiet hollows where nameless souls wander. There are no walls, only transitions, meadows that blend into groves, shadowed paths that wind past silent lakes. Some spaces hold memory, others hold forgetting. The ceilings drip with condensation, echoing softly like distant footsteps. Moss glows faintly along the walls, enough to see, but never to guide. In this endless twilight, there is no map, only impressions, felt rather than seen. Some areas comfort, others unsettle, but all are part of the underworld's unhurried breath. Burial rites and passage to the underworld. For the living, the journey of the dead began with care. A body was washed, oiled, and wrapped. Coins were placed with purpose, for Charon, for the crossing. Without them, the path would be harder. Wails and laments marked the beginning, but soon gave way to quiet. Women led the mourning, men bore the bier. Priests whispered blessings over the threshold. Sometimes a grave was dug. Sometimes a tomb was carved. Always it was a gate, not to end life, but to guide it onward. Libations were poured, honey, wine, milk. The dead were fed with memory. Songs were sung, not to awaken, but to soothe. Death was not departure, it was passage. And rites were the lanterns lit to ease the crossing. Grave sites, tombs, and necropolises. Across the hills of Greece, grave markers still stand. Some simple, stones with a name and a prayer. Others elaborate, statues of mourning women, or youths caught mid-step. These were not decorations, they were anchors, touchstones between worlds. The living left offerings, bread, flowers, oil. They spoke the names aloud. In cities of the dead, called necropolises, silence reigned. But it was a friendly silence, one that listened. The dead were not forgotten. They were neighbors, watched over, remembered. Even now, the wind through an old cemetery carries a kind of hush, of peace that has not been broken. Offering sacrifices and ritual silence. The gods of the underworld were not approached as others were.
There was no laughter at their feasts, no bright music in their honor. Only low voices, lowered eyes, and careful footsteps. Black animals were offered, sheep, bulls, their blood poured into trenches at night. The earth drank, the gods listened. Priests spoke in whispers. The living stood back, not in terror, but in respect. It was not about fear, it was about balance. To honor the underworld was to accept that life and death were bound together, and in that silence, something sacred stirred. Mystery cults and initiation rites. In Eleusis and elsewhere, there were secrets, sacred stories whispered only to the initiated. No scrolls recorded them. No outsider could know. But from what survived, we glimpse the shape of hope. These rites spoke of descent and return, of Persephone's passage, of a better afterlife, gentler and full o. Initiates fasted, bathed, and walked in darkness. They listened, they saw. And what they saw was never spoken aloud again. Even now, we do not know exactly what they believed, only that it brought comfort, enough to face death without fear. Sacred geography in ancient imagination. To the Greeks, the underworld was real, not in stone or map, but in meaning. Some placed it beneath volcanoes, others beyond distant oceans. Still others believed it began in caves just beyond the village. No single vision was complete, but all shared a sense of hush, of reverence, of mystery. Even a crack in the earth could be a doorway. A cold spring could whisper of Lethe. The wind in the olives might carry a name long gone. The underworld was everywhere, just beneath, just beyond, not separate from life, but entwined with it, the gods and keepers below. Within the silent depths of Hades, certain beings hold steady watch, not with fury or fear, but with quiet purpose and measured calm. Hades, lord of the silent realm. Hades is often misunderstood. Not a villain, not a tyrant, but a steadfast ruler of a realm far removed from the world of sunlight and noise. His presence is steady, neither harsh nor warm, like stone carved by slow rivers. He does not seek souls, nor does he chase them. He simply holds the space where they come to rest. His crown is of darkness, his throne carved from ancient rock. He is impartial, not cruel, an unyielding boundary between life and death. His rule is silent, his judgment quiet, and in his calm, the underworld finds its balance. Persephone, queen of boundaries. Persephone's role is delicate, the bridge between worlds. Daughter to Demeter, wife to Hades, she embodies change and duality. She moves between the bloom of spring and the shadow of the tomb, carrying both light and dark within her. Her footsteps mark the seasons, her presence the rhythms of life and death. She does not command with force, but with presence. A soft queen whose gaze holds the weight of all transitions. In her hands rests the balance of becoming and ceasing. Thanatos, the gentle death. Thanatos is the quiet god who comes not to harm, but to guide. He is not fearsome, but inevitable. A soft hand on the shoulder, a door opened without resistance. He moves without haste or clamor, wrapping souls gently in shadow. Unlike the terror that stories sometimes paint, Thanatos is calm, patient, and kindly in his task. His presence reminds all that death is part of the cycle, not an enemy to be feared, but a passage to be accepted. Hypnos and the House of Sleep.
Beyond the underworld's borders lies the realm of sleep, ruled by Hypnos, brother to Thanatos, soft-winged and silent. His cave is quiet, filled with poppies and gentle shadows. Here, dreams bloom like flowers, and the mind drifts like a leaf on a slow stream. Hypnos's breath is the hush that falls over the world at dusk, the gentle close of tired eyes. His touch is rest, a pause before the final journey. The Erinyes, watchers of oath and blood, known as the Furies, the Erinyes are not spirits of wrath, but of memory and justice. They move through shadows with quiet purpose, not to punish with fury, but to remind. Their eyes hold the weight of promises kept and broken, of blood spilled and balance sought. They do not rage, they wait, steady and certain. Their presence is a reminder that even in death, actions ripple on, and in that ripple, the world holds its measure. Karen, the ferryman of passage. Karen sits by the river, his oar dipping silently into black water. He does not speak, nor does he smile. He waits. For him, this is neither joy nor sorrow, but duty. Souls who carry the coin may cross. Others remain, waiting or wandering. He is neither cruel nor kind, but patient, the steady guide between worlds. His ferry moves slowly, endlessly, through the hush of water and shadow. Cerberus, the quiet guardian. The three-headed hound is less monster than boundary. Cerberus does not bite out of rage, but out of necessity. His heavy paws fall softly on the underworld's earth. His heads turn slowly, alert but calm. He keeps the living from entering unbidden, and the dead from wandering astray. His role is watchful, silent, and steady, a living marker of the line between worlds. Hecate and the crossroads of shadow. Hecate moves at the edges, at crossroads where paths divide and choices linger. She carries torches that cast gentle light into darkness. She is a guide for those who stray, a presence in the moments of uncertainty and change. Neither feared nor worshipped with noise, she is acknowledged in quiet ritual. Her footsteps echo softly where the veil between life and death is thinnest. Where the world shifts into shadow, the judges of the dead, three judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, sit in calm deliberation. Their task is not punishment, but discernment. They weigh the life lived, the choices made, the balance kept. Their decisions shape the soul's place in the underworld. They do not shout. They do not condemn with fury. Their voices are measured, their eyes steady. In their judgment, there is order, a silent weaving of justice and mercy. Spirits of the threshold. Beyond the great figures, many lesser spirits tend the edges. They stir mists, open doorways, and watch over forgotten paths. They are unnamed, unspoken, but always present. Their movements are soft as falling leaves, their presence like a breeze in the quiet. They guide souls who lose their way, tend the borderlands between realms, and keep the spaces between moments still and steady. In their quiet, the underworld breathes, reflections and the journey home. The underworld's shadows offer quiet space, for memory, for comfort, and for gentle renewal. The underworld in daily thought. In ancient homes, death was never distant. It whispered softly in hearth and garden, in the careful tending of flame and soil. Small shrines stood quiet, where families placed offerings and spoke names under breath.
The rhythm of life was shadowed by the knowledge of passing,
A presence woven into the fabric of every day. Children learned early to respect the unseen, and elders spoke of ancestors not with fear, but with reverence. These quiet thoughts shaped how the living moved through their days. The underworld was near, not distant, a silent companion, never rushed or loud, but always steady. Dreams of afterlife, stories of what lies beyond were gentle, painted in myths told by flickering firelight. The soul's journey was not a battle, but a passage, sometimes dark, sometimes bright. Art and song captured this softly, a hero resting beneath a silver tree, a maiden crossing calm waters, a quiet garden where the dead found peace. These visions were never certain, only hopeful, threads of comfort spun in the loom of human imagination, meant to soothe the restless heart, the comfort of memory. Remembering was an act of love. Through stories, names, and offerings, the dead lived on in the minds and hearts of the living. At tombs, fresh flowers were placed. At tables, a cup poured out. The act of memory was a bridge, delicate and enduring. It was not sorrow alone, but connection. The past whispered softly, a gentle touch that kept the departed near. Death and the cycle of nature. The seasons turned like a slow, measured breath. Birth, growth, decline, rest. The underworld's queen, Persephone, was at the heart of this rhythm, moving between light and shadow. The harvest was a reminder that life and death are intertwined, one feeding the other in an endless dance, in quiet fields and silent woods. The cycle of nature echoed the cycle of the soul's quiet journey. Many believed the soul took a slow path, passing rivers, wandering meadows, resting in shade. It was a journey not rushed or forced, but unfolding in time's gentle flow. Some souls found peace, others waited, lingering in memory's embrace. Some might return anew, in forms unseen. This journey was a whisper, never loud, but persistent. Mourning and peace. Grief was held softly. Tears fell like rain, slow and steady. Rituals helped the living let go, to accept the passing without resistance. Songs were sung in low voices, hands laid gently, lamps lit for the journey. In mourning, there was a quiet strength, a turning toward peace. The underworld and art. Poets spoke in measured tones, sculptors carved still faces, and painters traced shadows on stone. Their works were not bold or bright, but subtle and enduring, reflections of mystery and calm. Through art, the underworld became a place not of terror, but of deep quiet. Philosophy and the shadow realm. Early thinkers pondered death with soft curiosity. They asked not with urgency, but with calm thought, what is the soul? What comes after life's breath? Their words were gentle meditations, invitations to accept the unknown with steady heart. The underworld's place in the world. The underworld was both beneath and beyond. Beneath mountains, across distant seas, in dark caves. It was a landscape of meaning, woven into the land itself. In sky, earth, and water, the story of the dead was never far. Closing thoughts, a gentle farewell.
Our journey through Hades comes now to rest. We have walked silent halls, crossed shadowed rivers, met gods and souls. And now, in the quiet present, you sit safe, in light and warmth. Remember that death was once part of life's rhythm, not an end, but a breath between moments. As you close your eyes, let the calm of this ancient realm settle softly within. Historian Couch signs off, wishing you peace and gentle rest. Our journey through the Greek underworld is drawing to a close. We have wandered through silent halls, crossed dark rivers, met gods who rule in quiet dignity, and heard the whispers of souls long past. As the story fades, remember that the underworld was not a place of fear, but a part of life's quiet rhythm, a space where endings rest gently and new moments wait patiently. Wherever you are now, know that you are safe. The shadows we have visited are not distant, but woven into the very fabric of being, reminding us of the delicate balance between life and rest. Allow your breath to slow, your thoughts to soften. Carry with you the calm of this ancient realm as you drift toward peaceful sleep. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. Historian Couch signs off now, wishing you tranquility and gentle dreams. The Greek underworld, as we have discovered, is a place rich in meaning. Not merely a land of the dead, but a realm of quiet reflection, balance, and transition. Through rivers like Styx and Lethe, we glimpsed the sacred flow of promises and forgetting. Through stories of heroes, gods, and common souls, we felt the threads that bind life and death, hope and remembrance. This calm descent invites us to think differently about endings, not as abrupt or frightening, but as part of a slow, natural rhythm. A place where memory lingers softly, and where peace can be found in the gentle embrace of shadow. As you move forward from this story, may you carry the stillness with you. Let it soothe your mind, rest your spirit, and prepare you for the soft turning of days and nights. Thank you for journeying into the underworld with me. Until we meet again, may your path be quiet and your rest deep.